Hey guys, for us from Twitchmates here. Today we will be going into another very important part of the OBS settings. This tutorial will be on advanced settings, and it's pretty complicated. So let's get started. All right, so let's get started with the advanced settings option. Advanced is the most complicated by far, and it also has the most questions asked. So we'll go through pretty much all the stuff in depth. Starting under the general, we have use multi-thread optimizations. What this does is it takes advantage of the multiple cores in your CPU. And honestly, there's no real reason to turn this off, so keep it on. Next, process priority class. So what this does is it decides how much CPU or how important OBS is to your CPU. So having it as high will mean that when my CPU is taxed, OBS will get priority. However, most people can get away with normal or above normal just fine. Next is scene buffering time. This is simple. It's just the time OBS takes in between switching scenes. After that, disable encoding while previewing. Do not recommend. Keep the encoding on while previewing so that OBS can tell you if there's any errors while you're previewing and you don't have to stream to find the errors. Next is video. So starting with the X264 CPU preset. Okay, this is very, very, very important. The default setting is very fast, and usually you want to keep it that way. The faster you go, the more your quality will drop, but your performance will increase. However, if you go any faster than very fast, X264 optimizations will be lost. So there's very few circumstances where you want to go faster than very fast. However, going slower, what slower does is it increases the quality drastically, but it also heavily taxes your CPU. And in most cases, the increase in quality is not enough to justify the taxation to your CPU. It'll even tell you, it'll say, okay, warning, changing this can have severe negative effects on your stream. Since you can find small quality increases in all the other settings, I would say leave this X264 preset as very fast. Unless you have an absolute monster of a computer and you've tweaked everything else, very fast is fine. The encoding profile. So you want to have this as main. This is actually a Twitch requirement. The reason for that is I think they don't want to send transcoding options to mobile phones or something like that. But just have it main. Twitch requirement, they want you to have it there, so main is good. Keyframe intervals, same thing. Twitch requirement says you set it to 2, so set it to 2. Good. Use CFR. So CFR stands for constant frame rate. This is more for video recording and for video editors that don't do well with VFR. In some cases, and actually a lot of cases, this will duplicate some frames. So we don't need that for streaming. Keep it off. Custom X264 encoder settings. Unless you're a developer, you don't want to touch this. Like, not at all. If you see a guide on OBS and it gives you some custom X264 settings, don't use them. Unless you know OBS in and out, and you're a developer and you know the X264 encoder in and out, don't touch it. Next is encode in full range. So what that does is that gives you 0 to 260 or 255. It uses 0 to 255 for every single color in OBS. However, it leads to a lot of compatibility issues. So while it's nice, it looks nice and stuff, I recommend turning it off. Allow 61 to 120 FPS. So this is more for just testing stuff and screwing around. You're honestly not going to stream in more than 60 FPS pretty much ever. So if you want to test some stuff, screw around, then check it, but otherwise leave it off. Audio. So this audio tab, basically this whole thing is for if your audio is desynced, then you would look here and try and sync it back up using either mic timestamps or desktop timestamps, or even both in some cases. However, if your audio is not desynced, don't worry about it. Lastly, in the network tab, there's something called automatic low latency mode. Now this is an extension, if you remember, no apply changes. If you remember, minimize network impact in broadcast settings, automatic low latency mode is an extension of that. What it does is it fine tunes the distance between each packet sent. So right now we have it set to 20. So, however, I do not suggest turning it on unless you really know what you're doing or it's a really specialized case. Don't worry about it. Bind to interface, this is where you can, if you have multiple interfaces, you can pick one or two. Otherwise, OBS will just decide for you. Default is usually fine. Lastly is disable TCP send window optimization. I'll be honest in saying I've never used this, and in all my research, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what this does. So I leave it unchecked. Leave it unchecked, it should be fine. GG. Okay, that's it for the advanced section tutorial of OBS settings. For the other sections and other tutorials as well, make sure you go check us out at twitchmates.tv. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Good night.